Safety first. Please start the podcast before driving and do not interact with your phone while operating your vehicle.
Welcome to Impactful Dialogues, an Ecolab podcast that elevates inclusion, mindfulness, purpose, awareness, collaboration, and trust through executive conversations. I'm your host, Senior Vice President of Global Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Dexter Davis. Welcome to the 9th episode of Impactful Dialogues. Today we'll be speaking with Tiffany Atwell to discuss her role in government relations, its impact on Ecolab's operations and broader mission, and how she manages diverse perspectives and opinions. Welcome again, Tiffany. It's so great to have this time to speak with you, and just really been impressed with the impact you've already made here at Ecolab and how it's really taken our government relations program and what we do in a different direction and made it more truly global. So can we just start off, just tell me a little bit about your role here at Ecolab, kind of what it consists of, what do you like about it? What are some challenges, and where do you see it expanding in the future?
Great. Well, thank you, Dexter.
Yes.
And thanks for being such a great partner with the Global Government Affairs team. I think a lot of the work you are doing for the company is complementary for what we're trying to do. So when you think about Global Government Affairs, really, we are a marketing arm of the company. It's our duty to be able to understand what the business and what many of our leaders are trying to achieve for our customers and share that vision and partnership with government stakeholders around the world and other key stakeholders. And so we like to understand what we're doing from the business side, what we're doing from the philanthropic side, what we're doing to try to ensure that our workers are their best selves when they come to work. And we use that to tell our story, to help people understand, the value add that we bring. And then in hopes of course, making sure that we have the freedom to operate in any country or state that we're trying to do business in. And sometimes that is in regard to regulations, ensuring that our regulatory team has the ability to get our products registered. I mean, sometimes there are policy barriers that are caused by politics. So my team would come into play there. When we think about, our customers being able to access our products, it can be through the regulatory piece, but it also sometimes can be because they may not have an incentive to do so. So if you think about the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act, some of that legislation recently passed in the U.S., but you can also think about like the French Water Plan, which is recently passed legislation in France. For those types of opportunities, those things come about by educating the government officials on here are some solutions to help you deal with your water scarcity issues, your energy challenges, and also if you want your countries or states to be more sustainable. You can do all while at the same time ensuring that those companies are making money. So it really is an honor for us to be able to go in and tell that story to those stakeholders and let them know what a good corporate actor we are and a partner we are, and really just market the company in that way. So where we are now, I mean, I think when I started, we had 3 people. We now have 9. And all of it is targeted to trying to match where the business is trying to grow, to ensure they have the freedom to operate. So I think that our expansion really is directly connected to business growth opportunities. And so I think slowly but surely we'll expand based on where we see out there for the business, and it's a great collaborative effort. I mean, so
it's really impressive. I know you recently came and spoke to our HR team and talked a little bit about government relations and expansion and how it's really, you are really ambassadors of what we do here at Ecolab and play those key partnership roles with different government officials from all over the world and different backgrounds and everything too. And it makes me think a little bit like, what are some challenges that you see with that?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges, are really kind of changing our mindset internally so that we will be at the table to share this information. Instead, we thought, oh, well, people will just get it, and we have a great product, people will understand it and they'll somehow pick it up. And I have a saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So I think it's a lot of the challenges have been trying to help us understand the value of being at the table.
Absolutely.
And committing the time and resources to do that. So I think that's first and foremost. And then I think the other piece of it is it's a huge undertaking to get people to understand the power of water, the water energy nexus. And so part of it is just capacity to get out there and tell the story to the right people, which is why I think the collaboration that we do internally, whether we're working with our comms team, which has been instrumental in amplifying the messages, making sure Christoph and some of our other amazing business leaders are actually out there telling the story along with my team. And so that one Ecolab approach has really helped us try to catch up and telling that story to the appropriate stakeholders.
That is so important, and I love that that's front of mind, and that's something you're doing, and that you're communicating that throughout all of our partners and the different government relations, the different countries across the world. And I can't help but to think about that, to be able to do that and have those conversations just from a people perspective, from different people, different backgrounds. You got to have that level of comfortness with different cultures, and really have that mindset of employing inclusive culture and people being authentic selves. How do you think that plays out in your role? And then also, how do you employ that like with your team and stuff? You mentioned your team a lot. You start with your team, right?
Yeah.
And you create that culture of inclusion. And what do you do to that? And then how does that translate into the work you do as well?
I would say first it does start with my team. I just did an interview for a candidate today, and that's what I started with, to let her know the expectations are that we collaborate, we listen to diverse perspectives of our team members. We're looking on how we can build up our team members and that their success is our success. And how you get to the win is more important than the actual win. And so you start with a team, that mindset. That's where I started. And I'm very fortunate to have great leaders on my team who have similar values in that way. And we work from the team to make sure we're expanding that out to whichever internal stakeholders that we're working with. But I think the importance of that is in any given country that we're working in, whether it's the US or southern US or northern part of the US, you have different cultures and people have different ways of thinking. When you go in with an open mind and looking at, okay, here's a diverse way of thinking, I've never thought of it this way, but when you're open to that, people respond to you in a different way. And so oftentimes people think about diversity, inclusion, and equity like, oh my gosh, these are just nice things to do. No, it's actually a business imperative because this is going to help us not just to be able to connect with our current customers, but also our future customers.
Yes.
And so if we're practicing those values and how we treat each other internally, it will help us and strengthen our efforts when we go external. I was just in Saudi, never been to Saudi before and the kingdom. And what I found was I had to have an open mind going into the country, not what I was seeing on the news or some of those preconceived notions. Because when I was accepting of their culture and learning about their culture, they could see that willingness and that openness. And so many of the government interactions with the customers received very favorably because they saw that I was open to their culture and trying to be inclusive of, well, I never thought about that. How could we learn from you and not just kind of going in with, okay, this is Ecolab's way or the highway. And so I think that, it really is a business imperative.
Yes, it is.
For us to be able to embrace those values, to ensure that we're going to continue to be the world's leading water company. So it's exciting, but this is the way I look at it. And it applies regardless of race or, wherever you are on the spectrum. It applies because people want that acceptance. It's just it's human nature.
And it gets me going a little off a tangent here, but as you're hearing you talk about that and understanding how important it's a business imperative and people want that, people are human, it makes me think about the environment we're in right now when people talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and there's not as much, I would say, flexibility or willing to hear different perspectives. And it's really frustrating, right? I mean, I think it's like what you just said is just what we should be doing outside of work, out there. What do you think as we kind of come up to, especially here in the U.S. election coming up and everything too, ideas, especially in general, of how we can be civil and really understand that it's important that we hear different perspectives. But we also know that we all are coming from the same common cause of making our country or the world a better place. What's your thoughts about that? Because you have to do this every day, right? And you do. And now we're in this environment where it just feels like we quit listening to each other.
Yeah.
And it's just it's kind of disheartening a little bit. I just love to get your perspective. Totally just Tiffany's perspective.
Yeah. Well, actually, it came up on my interview today as well, because of course we're government affairs, and so
Yep.
we have to support the company and the political, discussions. And I mentioned to this candidate, we listen to Democrats and Republicans equally, and it's our job to find a win-win in those
Absolutely.
discussions with them, regardless of whatever side of the aisle they're on.
Mhm.
We bleed Ecolab blue.
Yes.
And so for us, my team is expected to go in and be able to talk to a Democrat or a Republican about the values of Ecolab and help them understand how it connects to their values. So it really is the bedrock of what we have to do every day. But
Yeah.
I think that it's important for us to kind of think about it even as citizens, because you have to think about it as a business person. If we can't use that same mindset with our colleagues, whoever your customer is, you never know if they're a Democrat or
Absolutely.
Republican.
Yeah.
And so if you can't go in with an open mind and really just kind of making sure you're embracing and having that beginner mindset when you're going in with them, then you may lose a sale. I mean, so this is I hate to kind of take it back to the business, because of course, as a human, there is a benefit to wanting to make sure that you're treating people with respect and kindness. It's just like what we learned in kindergarten, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a basicness, that our kids can remind us of if we're interacting with children. But I do think on a personal level, what I try to do is to take that opportunity to learn instead of
Love that.
judge.
Yes.
And realizing that this other person, even though they may not have the same political views, at the end of the day, they probably want the same values. And that's, of course, to be safe and healthy and happy and to have a future for their families. And so these are some of the basics that if we can understand that we may have a different view on how we get there, but at the same time respecting everyone's rights to want to have that, I think, it could really help us a long way. And realizing that oftentimes people want to shut out others' opinions because they're maybe feeling insecure.
Yeah.
There's some insecurity there. And so I think that it's an opportunity for us to do something different. And sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you understand what a beautiful country we are, even though we're complex. And so that's my hope, that, the pendulum will swing back the other way. But I think it starts with one individual
Absolutely.
making that change and saying, I want to do something different. And it will hopefully catch on for many of us.
So well said, Tiffany. Could not agree more. And I think that speaks to the work that you do. And I think that I'd love partnering with your team, and that mindset is almost naturally what we're trying to do from a diversity, equity, inclusion. So how do you do that when you're out there and you're having these conversations, promote the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion with it? Because I think you've all been great partners with me and my team. And I think if you think about the influence you could have with our customers and our different governments, can be really impactful. That's an impactful thing. It can be a big deal. So that's how big of a deal it is. So I'm just like, what do you do to promote there and out there too? Because what you just said it's so true about understanding each individual and the individual impact to do. But you are in a great position to really be able to impact so many people by having that mindset. So what do you all do to really promote that?
Well, I think we do it based on this is how we're going to be successful, to be honest. It really is understanding that for us to be successful, we have to embrace diverse opinions.
Yes. Yeah.
And people from diverse backgrounds. And so realizing that is part of an important part of what we need to be able to go in the room and hear what people are saying, because part of our job is not just telling the Ecolab story, it's hearing what that stakeholder is interested in. And the only way you can do that if you're open to a diverse opinion, because if you're not, then you can't hear them, right? Because you come in with your own preconceived notion, and that's kind of what's leading the discussion, which of course is a recipe for disaster. And then even if you don't agree, you can go in and tell a government official, I don't agree with you. You're wrong, you know. But your best bet is to
might not be successful. Though.
Exactly. Is to try to be inclusive.
Yes.
And so then you're listening to them and you're saying, okay, well, he's saying X, Y, and Z. I'm saying A, B, C. How can I come together, bring these two worlds together, and include his ideas and my ideas? And so that's where that inclusiveness comes from. You're hearing something different. He's hearing something different. And then you're trying to like package it and come up with that compromise and say it from their voice. And so I think, you know, understanding that all the views have an equitable seat at the table is what's going to help people understand that you want to create a win-win, and it's not just a win for Ecolab.
Absolutely.
And so I think for us, it's when we coach business leaders, when they go in to hear and talk to government officials, a lot of it is we're trying to tell that business leader, listen to what is keeping them up at night. And I think that that's why it so neatly fits into the DE&I model. And I hate to overuse the term, but for us, we have to take it from that perspective, because everyone that we're dealing with, whether Republican, Democrat, independent, agnostic, I mean, it doesn't matter. They're all coming at this, you know, discussion from diverse perspectives.
You can learn from that too if you're listening.
Exactly. And that's what we try to do. We try to learn from it and then try to build in how it fits into Ecolab, and then of course how we can be a partner to them, because we can provide the services they need to solve whatever that problem is. But if you don't have an open mind going in, you will lose.
Absolutely.
And so this is, I think, the bedrock of what we have to do every day. And so for us to be able to be successful, how we interact as a team, we have to take on each other's diverse perspectives. We actually have to, because that's the only way we're going to get to the best outcome.
So true.
I just want to win.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm easy. I just want to win.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's your idea or you know someone else's idea. I just want us to win.
Yes, that's awesome. And with you, the work you're doing is helping us win, and that's so important. And I think about you were at Saudi, you're traveling all the globe, you come home, you're exhausted, that alarm clock comes up in the morning. What gets you out of bed excited to go to work for Ecolab? Not assuming excited. Let's just say that. So what gets you out of okay, exactly. When that alarm comes off, what's that thought in your head that really gets you going?
I love my job. I will tell you, I love my team. I got a chance to see, Sean today, just briefly, but I love my team, and I just love what we're able to do to support our amazing company. When we were in the field in India and Saudi, and we were able to engage with some of our teams there, they're just amazing. And so what gets me going is just like, I get to represent these amazing people every day, doing this amazing work for our amazing customers. And we meet our customers where they are. And I love that, because it sounds simple, but it's just like, I feel like we all can make change and do good in the world just by what we do, by going out and greeting your neighbor, being kind to each other. When we show up and give each other hugs or high fives, it really does help people. And so I think that the energy that I get from seeing, our amazing leaders and colleagues is something that energizes me. And I feel honored that I'm able to represent them wherever I go. And I just take it seriously. So I just feel like it's the best job in the world.
Wow, that's awesome. And we're so appreciative and so fortunate to have you here, Tiffany. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for your time today and our impactful dialogue.
Thank you.
All right. Our next conversation will feature Chris Taylor, Vice President of Global Community Impact in Ecolab Foundation. We will focus on her role, the intersection of community impact and diversity, equity, inclusion, and challenges as well as opportunities between the two areas.